We destroyed Oreshnik before it became mainstream. For the first time, the president of the SSU spoke about the elimination of Oreshnik at Kapustinsky Yar, in Russia. This happened in the summer of 2023, and according to Zelenskyy, overall the Russians had the opportunity to fire 3 shots, one of which they used. The head of the Foreign Intelligence Service added that Russia is currently capable of producing up to 6 such missiles per year, and in the near future the Russians plan to deploy Oreshnik in Belarus. Its flight range is up to 5,000 kilometers. What other high-profile statements were made during the meeting at the president's office, where there was an unusual interaction with journalists, will be explained further by Natalia Ostrovska.
Around a round table with coffee, stacks of documents, maps, and journalists who could shout out questions. An informal briefing took place at the president's office. The president gathered the head of the security service of Ukraine, the head of foreign intelligence, the authorized official on sanctions policy, and the minister of foreign affairs. I will now tell you what information was revealed here for the first time. We enter the office where the meeting took place just a few minutes ago. The cameraman immediately turns on the camera and manages to capture Volodymyr Zelenskyy signing documents. And
what are we signing right now?
We are signing
a few cases, one regarding propaganda, one regarding the defense industry.
On November 20th, new American sanctions against Russia will come into effect. The list includes the largest oil companies, Lukoil and Rosneft. Zelenskyy hopes that as a result, Russians will lose $50 billion in a year. And in 2026, the budget deficit of the aggressor country could grow to $100 billion. Canada, Australia, Britain, Japan, the EU. These are our key partners who have reduced imports from the Russian Federation to a minimum or even to zero. Imports from the Russian Federation, and those who have increased them, on the contrary, have increased them. India, China, Turkey, and Central Asia. Former Russian colleagues, so to speak. Yes, this is something that needs to be addressed, and there is a vision for how to do it. But Zelenskyy reminds us that China remains Russia's biggest helper in the war. Whether Trump managed to influence Xi during their personal meeting on October 30th, the Ukrainian president says, is still unknown. In response to my clarification about how Ukraine is reacting to China's ban on exporting important drone components, the president answers as follows. China has massively restricted exports to European Union countries. Because I know that when all of us were scrambling, and you know that we were separately funding brigades because we were searching everywhere. We were separately funding each brigade so that through their own channels, they could all gather as many drones as possible wherever they could until we started mass producing our own. According to experts, Russian exports of petroleum products have now dropped to their lowest level since the start of the full-scale invasion. And the reason is not just Western sanctions.
I like the possibility of linking kinetic sanctions with traditional sanctions. What I mean is that by striking at critical infrastructure facilities of the Russian Federation, they then have to make repairs to those facilities.
The head of the security service, Vasyl Maliuk, talks about the impact of such long-range attacks.
If we count from the beginning of the year, that's almost 160 successful strikes on targets. Thank you. Oil production and oil refining facilities. If we take September and October of this year, that's 20 targets. Among them are 6 refineries, 2 oil terminals, 3 oil depots, and 9 oil pumping stations.
But not just sanctions. The president of the SBU is speaking publicly for the first time about the destruction of one of the 3 Russian missiles, Nutcracker. It turns out that this happened back in the summer of 2023 in the territory of Kapustiny Yar. Russia has already used up another hazelnut, so there is one more left. The missile's range is 5,500 kilometers. Due to its high speed and trajectory, the missile is difficult to intercept even with modern air defense systems. Vasyl Maliuk. He tells TSN about the details of the operation.
The destruction was 100%. It was a very successful operation, but at that time it was not publicized in any way. This was reported exclusively to the Supreme Commander-in-Chief, the President of Ukraine, and a few presidents of other countries were also aware of it. We carried all this out quite successfully. There was 100% confirmation. This was at a time when, in principle, no one yet knew the name Oreshnik. The general public didn't know about it, didn't use it, and at that time the Russians weren't really threatening with it yet.
Meanwhile, there is something that now worries both the military and civilians. Most of all, the shifting line of combat clashes. This is about Pokrovsk. The president says that the battle for this city is ongoing. The Russians who enter the city destroy it, but there is no encirclement. And what about Putin's plans to come to Pokrovsk? Zelenskyy sarcastically welcomes the idea. He says that Putin will go to Pokrovsk. Sure, by all means, if he comes to Pokrovsk. Everyone will be applauding. We understand how it will all end. And that was the last question. The president's spokesperson. He called this format of communicating with journalists off-camera experimental. But it is very similar to the one practiced at the White House, where local journalists are already used to shouting questions at the president. Natalia Ostrovska, Oleksiy Osovchuk, United News Marathon, TSN 1+1.